So thank you for joining us, everybody. My name is Andrea. We're delighted that you're here. I actually have roped the entire Thrive team to be here today, so we're really going to give you a kind of Thrive experience. I'm hoping, as you probably know, Ingrid and I started Thrive in 2003, and all I've done and with the team is Seta and now QCTO accreditation. So that's 20 years worth of that. As most of you know, I'm pretty grey under all of this dye, and I have stories for your stories. It certainly is a challenging environment for us to be in, especially at the moment. Lots of changes and things going on. So we're going to cover that today. As you know, here at Thrive, we like to help people as best we can. And really, my intention for today is to share as much information as I can with you to help guide you, as many people as possible, through this changing environment of the Seta educational compliance and across to the new QCTO. Everything I share today is based on our Hard Knocks experience. We do about 100 companies on any day going through accreditation at Thrive. And so we're going to use those experiences to help you and try and meet you as best we can wherever you're at in your journey. Just a small disclaimer, everything I share today is to the very best of my ability. I work with this every day. However, it's a highly changing environment, and I encourage you to take anything you hear today and make sure that you go and apply it to your specific environment, your specific evaluator, or your specific BE consultant, for example. Each of the qualifications are very different at the QCTO, and there's a lot of detail in the curriculums of those qualifications and skills programs, which will definitely guide us in terms of the nitty-gritty. We have a lot of folks here today, and so what I'm going to try and do is give sort of broad brushstroke answers to your questions and to how everything fits together. But yeah, just to highlight, I don't know everything about every industry. It's very changing at the moment, so we'll spend some time being more specific after the session. You're welcome to reach out. As most of you know, I'm a very casual presenter. I much prefer a conversation to this kind of lecture hall. So please feel free to use the chat box. The team is here to answer your questions. Use the emoticons and give me some feedback of how it's going. What I thought we would start by doing today is taking a little step back and have a look at, what is the NQF? How does it fit together? What are the sub-frameworks? And what is it that we're really talking about today related to accreditation and the various quality councils? There we go. I've got a slide for us. Okay, can you see my slide over there? Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger for us. Oh, there we go. Right. Okay. So right back in the day, we're going back to about 2000, South Africa created what is known as the National Qualifications Framework. Now, this has been through a number of revisions over the years, but it's essentially divided into 10 levels on our NQF. It's a little bit like a grading scale that we're familiar with at school, right? You go to grade 7, you go to grade 8. And so in South Africa, currently, our NQF is 10 levels, and it's divided into 3 key sub-frameworks. Okay, so we have higher education, which is from levels 5 to levels 10. This is where your private universities and public universities are, right? So this is your classic WITS or UJ or UCT. Indeed, some of the private universities too, perhaps like Henley or Vega or any of these higher education institutions. Folks, this is not what we are focusing on today. This is becoming a university. If you think QCTO accreditation is tricky, this is really tricky. It takes lots of time and money to get that right because you're becoming a university, right? You're becoming a university, and you get to create your own qualifications, your own BComs and MBAs and things like that. So That's really here from levels 5 to levels 10. Over here, we have what we used to call the Gen FitQua, back when the acronyms were really long. This is the general and further education, levels 1 to level 4. And that's quality assured by Umalusi. You may have come across Umalusi. You see them on top, the logo on top of our matric certificates, right? So Umalusi is responsible for quality assuring our TVET colleges. As you know, maybe you don't go through to matric at school, but maybe you come out and you become an electrician or a hairdresser or something trade related. So our TVET colleges, as well as our schooling system, our classic schools where our kids go. That again is not what we're talking about today. All right, so this is us for today. Today we're going to really focus on what we call the Occupational Qualifications Framework, the OQF, Occupational Qualifications Framework. This currently runs from level 1 to level 8, and this is where our CETAs used to quality assure the quality councils, and now we have the QCTO, the Quality Council for Trade and Occupations. Okay. Folks, this is the only area over here where you can be accredited for something that's shorter than a full qualification. In South Africa, a full qualification is at least 120 credits, and it runs over at least a year. You'll have known those as national certificates or further education and training certificates. Those are previous Seta qualifications. And so now we have a new body called the QCTO, which quality assures all the generic qualifications on the OQF. And indeed, us as providers are known as SDPs, Skills Development Providers. Listen, the only industry with more acronyms than us is definitely the techies. They've got more than us, but wow, maybe worthwhile just, if you're brand new to this industry, keeping some notes on those acronyms. But SDPs get accredited on the OQF by the QCTO. So there you go. You've got a whole sentence made out of acronyms. Also, a key difference over here in the OQF is that we have what we call generic qualifications and skills programs that we can apply for. So QCTO will write what we now call occupational certificates, and those will become available to us, and we will then apply for accreditation for them. Okay, I'm hoping that explains exactly where we fit in through these things. Alrighty, okay. So now that we have a better understanding of the NQF and the different sub-frameworks, the next question is, okay, so what does that mean for us? What are the key differences between what used to be the Seta accreditation system and what is now the newer QCTO accreditation system? Okay, so let's recap. In the older system, we used to have currently 21 different Setas. Seta stands for Sector Education and Training Authority. And the 21 different Setas covered different areas, for example, construction Seta or transport Seta or the health and welfare Seta, different Setas for different industries. Now, Setas do two key functions. One of them is to identify and address skills needs, scarce and critical skills in the country, and indeed to help address them. So they will typically do research, have sector skills plans, have mandatory discretionary grants, this kind of skills planning that we do this time of year. That is the one key function of a Seta. Now, the other key function is this accreditation that we're all familiar with. So they would have a department called an ETQA department that in the past would do accreditations. And if we were an SDP looking to be accredited, we would go have a look at all the different generic qualifications at the various Setas, and indeed have a look at what we called unit standards. Now, these are small building blocks to qualification. Okay, so they carry credits, little modules, if you like. So those modules, those unit standards would build up to a qualification. And what we've enjoyed a lot of up until now as providers, for those of us that offer shorter programs, then we could accredit for a single unit standard, for a single module, or maybe a cluster of unit standards, or maybe indeed a full qualification. In fact, in the old system, we had 11,400 odd registered unit standards. Okay, we could go and look them up on the SAQA website, and we could go and apply for accreditation for them. This is the older system. These unit standards and legacy qualifications were due to expire quite a long time ago. In fact, 2015 was the first expiry with the first talk of the QCTO, which was then extended until 2018 and again until June 2023. And so what we see now, I hope you've noticed, is that your unit standards and your legacy qualifications are indeed all coming to an end mid this year. So what does that mean? Okay. If you are a currently accredited provider, so you have an accreditation, you have your reports, you are currently accredited for something, what you need to do is go and have a look at your SAQA unit standard or qualification, go and identify that expiry date. And then what you can also see is the last date for enrollment. That is usually, almost always, June 2024. Last date for enrollment, June 2024. That means that the last time you can enroll a learner on your unit standard-based qualification or your unit standards, your skills programs, is June 2024. You will also see that the last date for achievement is June 2027. That means that any learner in your system that is still undergoing assessments, internal moderation, external moderation, certification, can continue until June 2027. That is your lifespan on the legacy qualifications. If you are a brand new provider, let's say you're looking to seek accreditation at this stage, you have two options at the moment. The clear option is to go to QCTO, and we're going to cover that a lot today. But if you have a look at the old system and you would prefer to be in the old system, many of the SETAs have closed their application process because of this expiry date. So Services SETA, for example, closed last year, August already. Some of our SETAs, we're seeing weekly now SETAs coming back to us and closing, most recently Construction SETA and Public SETA. And it's understandable to me, because if it takes you 3 to 6 months to get accredited and the unit standards are expiring soon, then, it doesn't really make sense to go there. But I'd be remiss to not mention that some SETAs are open and tell us that they will be open until June. And so you could potentially access this system and potentially submit for accreditation for single unit standards here in the old system. I would advise against it. I'm concerned that SETAs will close over that time, and then all of your effort to get your application together will then be wasted. And so I would advise against it. But there are some SETAs that are open. Many people say to me about the SETAs, well, the SETAs are closing, it's the end of the road. This is not entirely true, because the SETAs are gazetted until 2030. So we're going to see SETAs for some time, but remember I said that SETAs have two functions. One is scarce and critical skills and the addressing of those. And so they will continue to do that. And indeed, they may continue in some cases to do some of the legwork, some of the resourcing for the QCTO, because you can imagine how much resources the QCTO is going to need going forward. So we will see SETAs continue. We will see them go on, but the accreditation function of the SETA is now taken over by the QCTO. We are in motion of that happening.